Don't punch like that, that is wrong. So that bothers me since many years, and it's one of the main points in the martial arts discussion that really sets me off. So you see that like boxers and kickboxers and kung fu and karate guys, they argue against each other. What is the correct way to do something? I've learned many different styles from many different teachers. You know, I had training in Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, some karate, Wing Chun Kung Fu, Eskrima, little dog brothers martial arts, some wrestling, freestyle and Greco, some MMA training, some luta livre training, some sambo training, and some Krav Maga training, of course, and many different, you know, several boxing trainers, wrestling trainers, blah, blah, blah. And everybody has their own style based on how they are built mostly. If they're a competitor, your style will be colored or skewed a bit by how tall or short, how heavy you are, if you're quick or flexible or whatever. And the traditional martial arts, they are formed and shaped by the way their founder was. So the founders of Judo and Jiu-Jitsu were kind of short and not that strong, so it's much on leverage. And with every style, you know, like the founder of Kyokushinkai was famously a very tough guy, and he formed a very tough style. But today it's not very much about that. One example that bothers me most is that like many Kung Fu styles teach you to punch vertically. And they will say, so punch vertically with the bottom 3 knuckles, that is the correct way to punch. And it's wrong to punch that way. Okay, fair enough. And then you go boxing, and then they be like, okay, so you punch like that, forward, and you rotate the hand, and you, because you wear a glove, most of them don't talk much about where with the knuckles exactly you hit. That's the correct way, that is wrong. You ask a karateka, and he's gonna be like, bam, straight forward, hit with those 2 knuckles horizontally. If you don't, the other way is wrong. And I read a lot of those comments under my wrestling and jiu-jitsu videos. And you know, what bothers me about it is not that they think my technique is bad, which obviously, you know, I make it work. But is that they have gotten that thinking from their coach, or the coach didn't bother to correct that. So if your coach shows you a way to execute a technique, and it's working, that means it's correct. That does not mean that another way to do the technique is wrong. You have to learn to understand. Use your mind, not to judge, not to discard, to understand. In German, we call the mind the Verstand, which literally means the understanding. But we also have the Urteilsvermögen, the sense of judgment. And too many people rely on that. They think they're smart when they can tell you, oh, you're wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But please, develop a culture of learning to understand. Why? Why is the Wing Chun guy punching like that? Why is the boxer punching like that? Why is somebody doing a double leg in a different way? Why do all of these different things work? How do they make it work? Is it based on their specific posture, their specific body, on a specific rule set, on gloves versus no gloves? Or is it embedded into a whole system? So, you know, there are some guys that prefer being very much open. And it's an obvious mistake because the middle is very much open to attacks. So instead of judging, oh, that's wrong, understand why is he doing it, to redirect all the attacks to the middle. If you have ever seen like a professional fighter, if you look at Deontay Wilder, whose technique is so far off what any boxing trainer would show you, and then you're like, oh, he's got bad technique. You're wrong. He's one of the best boxers ever. So what he's doing is obviously working. And good technique versus bad technique is not judged on how beautiful it looks to your eye. It has to work. If it works, it's good technique. If it doesn't work, it's bad technique. If you win a fight, you're a good fighter. Now you can take away those physical properties that cannot be changed and look at the technique. which is also why I try to idolize fighters that have not had those great natural talents, because I cannot copy them. I will not try to copy a Roy Jones because I will never have his eye. I will not try to copy a Bruce Lee because I will never have his speed. I will try to understand what is it that makes it work. So I will try to, why does somebody have a high cover? What does it to them? Instead of just seeing, oh, he's covering, excuse me, he's covering his face, which is correct, and he's covering the body, which is correct. What are the plus? What are the minus? What are the ups? What are the downs of it? So every technique I try to put in my shelf of techniques, in my, where all my strategy is based on three factors about it. What is the effect? What is the cost? What is the risk? So the effect, maybe of a jab, the most obvious effect is that I'm hitting your face. But also other effects are that I'm keeping you at bay, or that I'm reading on how are you moving, how are you defending. I'm learning about your distance, about your reaction. To me, the jab is mostly about learning, about reading. What is the cost? How much energy does it cost? How much time does it cost? That might influence what one calls right or somebody else calls wrong. Like to me, the double leg takedown where you lift your opponent is the correct technique, the most basic one. And you might think that, oh, but it's very energy intensive because you lift another man. But I know that on the level that I fight, everybody has much more strength than they do have weight. So his resistance against almost any movement will be much more than against lifting. Because I can just pick him up. He cannot make himself heavier than he is. So he's like 80 kilograms, I just need to lift 80 kilograms and he's off. But if I try to bend him or anything, I need to use much more force. So to me on that level, it just makes sense. So that's the cost. How much energy does it take? How much time does it take? Maybe it takes less energy to just swing the punch instead of straight forward and back. It takes less energy, but much more time. And time is a very valuable aspect of fighting, a very valuable resource. And lastly, what is the risk? What may happen if it goes wrong? And how high is the risk of going wrong? So even just depending, how I'm punching, I need to look at what protection does that punch offer to me? How high is the risk of getting a counter punch into my face or body? How high is the risk of me hurting my hands, short term and long term? Because I need to not just think about how strong am I today or in 5 years, but how strong will I be in 50 years? There are several strategies of fighting, like spider guard, that I completely disregard because I see it destroys people's fingers within 5 to 10 years. So I know that I will not be able to do it in 50 years. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna long-term injure myself. That's also why I personally prefer grappling over striking. First of all, I see that in grappling fights, people overcome a much higher difference in weight than they do in striking. It's counterintuitive. Films teach us that like the small guy may not be grabbed, but he's like very fast and bam, 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 and then he kills the big guy and stuff like that. But in reality, in open weight tournaments of striking and of grappling, we see 80 to 90 kilogram grapplers becoming world champion against 120 kilogram grapplers. We do not see the same in striking. Grappling is more fit to overcome a huge disadvantage in size or strength. And I'd rather limp than stutter. It's one of my favorite sayings, bon mots that I use, rather limp than stutter. I think it's totally okay if after 7 years of training I will have a limp and my knees are destroyed. It's like, I will be an old man, old men are like that. So it's not that bad, I'm gonna limp a bit, doesn't matter. But I see a lot of old boxers, they stutter. They cannot form a coherent sentence, and I already struggle a bit with talking. And so I want to keep my wit. It's most important to me You know, I can't afford to lose any more brain cells. I have to stay sharp and smart. You know, rather be an old man that limps than stutters. So I prefer to train grappling very hard, very intense, become a very good grappler, than to become a very good boxer or kickboxer. So all of those things and even more, you have to look at them. Also the training method, you know, don't disregard kata because you think it's dumb. Don't disregard strength training. Just look at people, use it and make it work. And understand why and how do they make it work. And then, you know, calculate how much do you have to put in and how much will you get out of it. How much do you have to train a jab? How much will you get out of it? How much is it worth? How many squats do you have to do? How much time and energy will it use? What will it give to you? How much sparring can you do? What will it give to you? Every technique, will it be worth to combine grappling and striking to you? Will it be worth to learn kicks, knees, elbow strikes, throws? Will it be worth to you for your personal goals to learn to, you know, to wield a sword? Like I love sword wielding and I'm totally aware that the chance or risk of ever having to wield a sword against another person in real life is incredibly low. But to me the fun is totally worth it, and I think I learn more about control of my body and I can channel my inner samurai or knight, and you know, then it will give me something, so it's worth it. All of that, consider how very few things are wrong. It is wrong when somebody does claims that are not true. It is totally wrong to go and say a Shaolin fighter would completely destroy the heavyweight UFC champion. It's just not true. It's just not true. But don't disregard Shaolin Kung Fu and the Shaolin monks. It's great what they do. Understand why are they doing it. They're monks, right? They look for enlightenment and monk stuff, versus why somebody fighting in the UFC. They are not looking for enlightenment probably. So understand why are they doing it, what do they take of it, what do they give to get it, and it's only wrong if you think or tell or say, if you combine an idea that does not fit the factual reality. That is wrong. Everything else may work. Hope you enjoyed that talk. If you like it, if you have any question or comment, drop it right there and I will be gladly back to answer it. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.